صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. For the love of Al-Qasim ibn al-Hasan, صلوا على محمد again. And to hasten the reappearance of the 12th Imam, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa al-Zaman, صلوا على محمد with the loudest of your voices. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة، يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Illuminate your hearts, your souls, and this gathering with the remembrance of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, tonight is the night of Al-Qasim. Salawat needs to represent some of our love for Al-Qasim alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There is no parent that does not worry about their child. Every parent, at the end of the day, cares for their child perhaps more than they care for themselves. Some parents, their priority in life is to see their child exceed academically. Their goal from day one is to ensure that their child enters into an Ivy League school, graduates, receives the highest of degrees, and becomes financially stable. Some prosper, some believe and hope to see their child prosper in the field of sports, for example. They choose universities that have these activities in order to ensure that they become athletes. Some parents, on the other hand, their main priority in life, while they may have other priorities, but the main priority for them is to see their child, their son, their daughter exceed and excel religiously. Their main goal in life, when they have children, is to ensure that they see their child or their son, their daughter become a devout servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that, by far, is the most noble goal that parents can have in life. If you're a parent, and your goal is to ensure that your son, your daughter becomes a devout Muslim, someone that will uphold the values of the religion of Islam after you, then that's the most noble goal that you can have. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support you in every step of the way. Now sometimes there are challenges. There's always challenges, in fact. But there are many challenges that many parents don't even know of, that their children are facing on a day-to-day basis. And so if a child has problems and their parent does not even know of their problems, how can the parent assist their child? And many of these problems become an obstacle to the advancement of their child religiously, psychologically, mentally, academically. Because if we truly analyze today's generation, brothers and sisters, there is no generation that has seen a set of challenges like this generation that is growing up today. They truly have challenges that are very unique to them. No other generation has faced what they're facing. And so as a community, as parents, as older brothers, as older sisters, as members of the community, we have to know what they are going through in order to be able to assist them. To ensure that the next generation in 20, 30 years, this masjid, IMF, will be alive and will be led by them. For if it's not alive, if it's not an active and robust community, then I'm the first one to admit that I failed my role as someone who comes and speaks to this community. We all have to think to ourselves that we have a role at the end of the day. And one of our roles within the community is to ensure the survival and the growth of this community. And so in the short few minutes that we have tonight, let us look at some of the challenges that the youth go through today. And how can parents navigate these challenges and understand these challenges, even if it looks like a foreign world to them. But before we do so, we need three salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There's no doubt that there are many forces in today's world that are competing for our children. It's essentially a war. Not a physical war, but nevertheless it is a war. Because there are people out there in this world that their main goal in life is to take the attention, the hearts, the minds of our children. You might be thinking I'm exaggerating. We'll look into the data tonight. One of the challenges that our children face tonight is the challenge of entertainment. You hear the word entertainment and you think of fun. What's the big deal? The entertainment industry, brothers and sisters, is worth over $50 billion with a B. That includes social media, that includes Netflix, that includes Hulu, that includes the streaming services that we have subscriptions to. We might think to ourselves that this is an $11 subscription, a $20 subscription. The average family in the United States spends $70 on these subscriptions a month. We might think, how harmful can this be? And before I go further, don't understand me to say that we cannot have fun in life, that we can't watch movies, that we can't have a streaming service. That's not my point. But the reality is, brothers and sisters, that this generation is growing up and their biggest friend and companion in life are these devices. Almost every single one of them has social media. They have apps that the parents don't even know about. They don't even know what they do. And when there's an industry that's $50 billion, that's worth $50 billion, these people know how to make money. And the way to make money is by gaining more people, gaining more attention, gaining more views. And so they've become experts in taking the time away from us. Every single one of us uses social media. How many hours do we spend? Now, as adults, the impact is much smaller and less than the impacts on those who are young. Some studies have shown us that the average child between the age of 18 to 18, 8 to 18, they spend around 7 hours and a half on their screens every single day. 7 hours and a half. That's almost a full-time job. And so if our child, if our youth at home are using this device for 7 hours and a half every single day, we should know what's happening. It's the very least that we should do as a parent, is I should know what my child is spending and doing for 7 hours and a half every single day. That's literally 1/3 of their day. And so it's my duty to understand. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa very beautifully says this hadith. المرء على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالف. A human being has the same faith, the same morals, the same values as who? As their best friend. And so look at who your best friend is. A khalil is is more than a sadiq. A sadiq is an acquaintance, is a friend. A khalil is higher. Therefore, Ibrahim is what? Khalil. The close friend of Allah. When you're spending 8 hours a day on a phone, it becomes your best friend. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa warns us. Now, best friends can be humans. You might have a best friend. And best friends can be a rectangular device that we place in our pockets every single day. And in many cases, brothers and sisters, it is almost impossible to raise a child today without being intentional with how you raise them. If you want to raise a child, a son, a daughter that is aware of what's happening in this world, that does not go with the trends, you have to be intentional. Maybe 30, 40 years ago, you would have been okay if your child was not raised in an intentional way. What do I mean? A lot of times, especially 10, 15, 20 years ago, after school, the child would spend time where? Outside of the house. With who? With your neighbors. In many cases, especially if you were in the Middle East, in many cases, your neighbors were Muslim. They had the same theology as yours. They had the same values as yours. You knew who your child is playing with. You knew their parents. You knew the family. You knew the values. And so when they spent time in your neighbor's house, outside, playing with these children, you didn't have to worry too much. Because the environment is also assisting you in raising your child. But today's case is much different. A child today barely even goes outside. Today's children and kids want to sit at home. They want the iPad. They want the gaming device. And I'm not saying the gaming device is bad. No, a lot of times it's good. A few months ago, one parent told me that thanks to a gaming console, his son was able to improve the nerves in his hand. He had a special condition in which he was barely able to use his hands. And through a gaming device, he was able to improve the nerve system in his hands. And so, in many cases, it's good. And children should have fun at the end of the day, but it has to be restricted. It has to be maintained. And so, when they're not engaging with other children, and when they're sitting on the iPad, and they're playing on the iPad, and in many cases, they're not even playing on the iPad. Generations before used to fight over the controller. Today, kids want to watch other people play. Everyone has a favorite streamer. Everyone has a favorite influencer. And so they sit down for hours listening to someone else play, watching someone else play. And who knows what's being said? A lot of times there's foul language. A lot of times there's explicit scenes. A lot of times there's images that they should never see. And these companies, these streamers, these influencers, they're experts in how to gain our attention. Think of it from the most basic level, from a child, and we'll go up. If you Google and search for what's the most popular video in YouTube, what do you think it is? It's a song for children, Baby Shark. Do you know how many views does that song have? 16 billion views. How many human beings are there on this earth? There's 8 billion. So on average, mathematically, each person has seen this video at least twice. To have 16 billion views. The top 5 videos, 4 of them are songs for children. Why? Because the way they designed the song, with its colors, with its screen, with the words, with the lyrics, the repetition, all of that, what does it do? It's catered and it's engineered in a way where the child, even if they're crying and yelling, the moment they hear Baby Shark, they forget everything. They're holding the iPad, and subhanAllah, it's like a miracle. The child is no longer crying. The child that was screaming and crying and wailing is no longer crying. They're happy and they're watching. And they'll watch it over and over and over and over again. That tells us that these people know what they're doing. They know exactly how to engineer something in which our children, all of us, including us adults, are willing to look at something for hours and keep on scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And when they grow up beyond the ages of 6, 7, 8, there's content that's specifically for them. The battle continues. These companies, these corporations, they engineer content that is designed to allow our children to stay on social media for as long as they can. For 8 hours and a half on average. That's a lot. And therefore you see that in many cases, this new generation have their own world. They might be sitting with you at home and eating, but they're in a completely different world. They have their own lingo, they have their own slang, they have their own culture, they have their own mentality. Even if they're raised by you at home, but they have a completely different set of views about this world. They have different humor. If I tell you, just for example, if I tell any of you parents, 6, 7, does that mean anything? What does it mean? It means the number 6 and it means the number 7. But 6, 7 for a young boy, a young girl today, it's one of the most hilarious jokes that you can ever see. Tell them 6, 7 and they'll stop chuckling. That's their humor. They have a complete set of humor that we don't understand. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, every generation has their own humor. They have their own likes. They have their own things that became popular during their lifetimes. But there comes a point where the limit is reached, where they've crossed the limit. When it becomes your best friend, this device, and no one knows what's happening, and the parent doesn't even have a clue, that becomes a problem. And it becomes very damaging to them. And they even understand it. One of the terms that even the younger generation uses regarding social media is brain rot. They literally joke about the content that they consume. And they say it's as if it's allowing our brain to rot. And so you see it's a completely different world for them. And so far, if it's a matter of just having fun, if it's a matter of spending an hour or two, there's no problem with it. But the problem begins when our values, when our identity, our mindset begins to be shaped by these devices. That's where the problem really begins. If you want to know what I mean, go back to 2025, a year and a half ago, in January. The US government had a political issue with TikTok. And TikTok went black, went dark for how many days? Does anyone know how many days? Just a few days, right? Many teenagers, reports show many teenagers experience anxiety, stress, over one app. One app was gone, and for many people, literally reports of people calling the police. I'm not sure what the police can help you with, but people literally calling the police because they're suffering when TikTok went down. Isn't that an issue? They didn't cut off water, they didn't cut off food. They cut off an app for a week. Within one day, people found an alternative for it. There was another app by the name of Rednote. I don't know if it exists or not today. But on one day, within one day, they gained 3 million new users. The day that TikTok went dark, 3 million people moved on. Because they couldn't live without this void in their life. There's a void. And so if they're that dependent, then we have to see what's happening with them. And in many cases, brothers and sisters, and many times what's being taught goes against what we believe. Everyone's an influencer these days. Everyone reviews their coffee, everyone reviews their shopping, everyone reviews their house, everyone reviews their workouts, everyone is an influencer. So many people with thousands of followers. Some of them are great. Some of them can be mentors. But a lot of them, they make our teenagers, and not even just within the Muslim community, teenagers in general, to suffer. Don't think that this is just a Shia issue, this is a Muslim issue. The US Surgeon General, the highest ranking doctor, the person who is responsible for talking about issues of health in the United States of America, issued a 16-page report detailing the problems with this app. It's linked with additional stress. It's linked with anxiety. It's linked with depression. It's linked with low self-esteem, especially when it comes to teenage girls. Because we live in a society that says we want to empower women. That's wonderful. Inshallah, we can all empower women. But at the same time, what do? Through social media, through the culture. They are essentially telling many of our daughters, your worth is based on your looks. Your value in society is based on your followers, your likes, your comments. That's what gives you dignity in this world, not your values. What gives you dignity, what gives you honor, what gives you status in society is a number on social media. That number determines your worth. And so many of them, they fall into this trap. They fall into the trap of having low self-esteem. Why am I not getting the likes? Why am I not getting the followers? It's a problem. And it's not just affecting, teenage girls. It's affecting teenage boys as well. So many times I see a 14, 15-year-old boy. They're standing in front of the mirror for 10 minutes, literally just combing their hair, looking at themselves. I'm not saying it's not good for you to to look good. It's always important for every single one of us to look good, smell good. But when it becomes your main characteristic, when it becomes your main personality, that's where the issue begins. And in many cases, the parents are just not. They're not aware. They're not aware of what's happening. And that makes it a problem. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, it's Al Qasim. The hall is full, mashallah. The salawat needs to show that the hall is full. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. And so many of our teens are entered into a battle of comparing themselves with other people. This person is better than me, this person is better than me, this person is better than me. Why? The main reason is they have no followers. They look better than me. They have this car, they have this. A lot of it is furthered by what? By social media. That's only the psychological impacts, brothers and sisters. And you should, as a parent, you should look into it. And you should observe and see whether this is actually impacting your son or your daughter. But to be honest, there's a much more damaging, harmful part of social media, a dark part of social media that's usually not addressed, unfortunately. And that, brothers and sisters, is the haram content on social media. The haram content on the internet. Wallah, if you look at the stats, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the data, you won't believe that we're living in such a world. Some reports tell us that by the age of 18, 74% of children in the United States have seen explicit content. 74. That's 1 in 3 of them have seen haram content. And the reality is, in many cases, they don't even have to search for it. It pops up for them. When the adult entertainment industry, that's the fancy word for it, is worth over $50 billion, how did it become so? How do they have so much money? How did they gain so much money? How is it worth $50 billion? It's because they know how to get customers. And a lot of the times they gain customers by slowly introducing this content to children. And so half of the 74%, half of them report that they've seen it before the age of 13. 13-year-old child does not know what? Does not know how to drive, does not know how to cook, does not know anything. With all the respect, if you're 13 and we love you, but you have a long way to learn, to explore life. Because in many cases, if you're 13, you don't know what you want to do when you grow up. And that's very normal, that's how it should be. Because you have a long way. But in many cases, many of our youth, they're introduced to such content from a very young age. To the point, brothers and sisters, we might say, okay, they saw it once and khalas. The reality is, brothers and sisters, there are many people that are suffering from this addiction. It becomes an addiction. It ruins marriages. It ruins lives. Some studies say that 17% of the world's population has an addiction with explicit content. Yani 1 in 5 people in this world has an addiction. Look at the numbers of amount of people that visit these websites daily. It's in the 100 millions every single day. And so, in many cases, the parents don't know. A lot of times the parents actually try. In many cases, the parents try. They provide everything for their son. They provide everything for their daughter, from school to shelter to bringing them to the masjid, to everything. But they don't know what happens behind closed door. When they go to the room and they close the door, they're not aware of what's happening. Before it used to mean, khalas, I'm going to sleep. Today, no, they can stay up till 5 a.m. and scrolling through the phone. And you wouldn't know. And so as parents, as community members, we have to have a recipe to be able to fight back, to make sure that our kids are raised in the values and the morals that we have, that we aspire to have. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. One way to achieve this, brothers and sisters, a lot of parents neglect this golden rule by the Ahlul Bayt. One way to achieve it, and I'm not saying it's a magical one, it's a magical solution, no. But one way to achieve this is what the Ahlul Bayt teach us. We can call it the 7-7 rule. 7-7-7 rule. The Ahlul Bayt they tell you when you raise a child, when you have a child and raise them, it's not a matter of taking it day by day. It's not a matter of just feeding them and taking it day by day and today we're going to learn this. The next day you wake up and you begin to think about what you should teach them the next day. Ahlul Bayt says no. You have to have effort. In addition to effort, there needs to be a plan, a solid plan, a strategic plan that's based on their psychology, that's based on their environment, that's based on their biology. And therefore, the Ahlul Bayt introduced this wonderful rule to us. And so Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Our sixth Imam, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he introduces this rule. He says, when you look at your child's life, divide it into 3 different parts. One part, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. One part, the first part that you have to divide it is for the first 7 years of their life. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, دع ابنك يلعب 7 سنين. Your child, your son, your daughter, for the first 7 years of their life, let them enjoy it freely. They want to play, let them play. Let them explore and be a child. You can't restrict them. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't guide them, we should allow them to freely do whatever they want. We shouldn't give them the iPad for 24 hours a day. We shouldn't be like that. But the focus for them is let them be a child. And so that's the first 7 years. And then comes another 7 years. And that's from the ages of 7 to 14, of 8 to 14. These 7 years are the most instrumental years. This is when we're ought to begin to teach them everything. So Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, وَيُؤَدَّبْ سَبَعًا. In these 7 years, you teach them adab. What that means is that you teach and you discipline. We teach them everything. From the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why are we Muslim? Why am I Shi'i? Why do I believe in the Imams? Who are the Imams? In many cases, many children grow and they graduate and they become married and they don't know the names of the Imams. Shia is the most basic thing that we can do. We have to always encourage our sons and our daughters to at least know the names of the Imams. Because all of us one day will end up 6 feet deep in this mirror. And the first question, one of the first questions that the angel will ask us, aside from who is your Allah, who's your Lord, who's your Prophet, what's your religion? Who are your Imams? Are we going to stutter when we speak? Are we going to tell them we don't know what we believe in 12? The answer has to be a solid answer. And so we teach them everything. And the ahadith tell us, and science tell us, that when you teach someone anything between the ages of 7 to 14, chances are they'll never forget it anymore. Chances are if you teach them properly, if they memorize it properly, if they understand it properly, they won't forget it. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he said, he has a very beautiful hadith. He says, al-ilmu fi as-sighar kan-naqshi ala al-hadith. Learning from a young age as a child, it's like carving into stone. When you carve into stone, it never goes away. It's there, it's carved. That's what happens to the brain of your son or your daughter. And so we teach them multiple things. We teach them Islam, we teach them Imamah, we teach them the Holy Quran, we allow them to memorize the Holy Quran. There's a very beautiful hadith that sometimes we neglect. The hadith says, when a young person, when a child, when a teenager recites the Quran, you're not only reciting the Quran, there's a process that's happening behind the scenes in our hearts that changes the biology of that child. Maybe science has not discovered it today, but the Imam tells us. He tells us, من قرأ القرآن وهو شاب, those who recite the Quran and they're young. اختلط القرآن بلحمه ودمه. Quran, the barakah of the Quran, the nur of the Quran is now embedded in your DNA. Is now embedded in your body. It means that you'll grow up having that barakah from the Quran, that spirituality from the Quran. And many of the verses that we memorize from that age, we won't forget. And then the hadith says, وَجَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ مَعَ السَّفَرَةِ الْكِرَامِ الْبَرَرَةِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will consider that person to be amongst the dignified people on this earth. وَكَانَ الْقُرْآنُ حَجِيزًا عَنْهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. And the Quran will protect that person, that young person on the day of judgment. So if I'm the parent, in addition to teaching my child the academics that they need to learn and helping them with financial literacy and everything, one way to protect them is to protect them on the day of judgment. And so I should memorize them. I should have them memorize from the Quran. I should have them recite them from the Holy Quran. I should dedicate a time every single day in which they recite the Quran. So the Quran can protect them and myself on the day of judgment. In these 7 years, we teach them salah. And Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he says, we order our children to begin to perform salah at the age of 5. He says, but you Shias, you're not the son of the Imam, you're not the brother of the Imam. You should teach your children to begin to pray at the age of 7. When they're 7, khalas, you begin to teach them salah. And for the next 7 years, what happens? If you're teaching them salah, and you allow them and slowly guide them into building that habit to pray every single day, when they grow up, they're not going to miss a salah. When they grow up, they'll be the first one to pray on time. They'll perhaps pray on time quicker than you. That's a sign of a successful parent. And so these are the 7 instrumental years in which we teach our child. But in addition to just teaching them, we also have to discipline. Part of the discipline is to teach them the habits of life. Many of it relates to the modern world. What's going on in this world? We discipline them in a way where they don't fall into the pitfalls that many youth fall into. I'm not saying that our children should not have social media, for example. Every parent knows the best decision for their child. You know your child best. You know your environment best. But do it in a way where it's controlled, where it's managed, where it's not excessive, where it's not 8 hours, where it's not reaching the point that your child is not controllable anymore. And it starts from an early age, from the age of 7. And so these are the crucial ways in which we discipline, we guide them. Now, a lot of times, many parents, they struggle and they complain. They genuinely try, but they say, every time I talk to my child, it goes from one ear and it leaves the other. They never listen. They never change. Every day I have to give a lecture, and the lecture does not help whatsoever. And the answer, brothers and sisters, a lot of times, the problem is not with what you're saying. The problem is the way you're saying it. The problem is the way you're delivering the information to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us a story of a father giving advice to his son. The story of Nabiullah, or there's a debate whether he's a prophet or not. The story of Luqman. وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. Luqman was a wise man, he gives advice to his son. Now I ask you, does the Quran say, وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ وَهُوَ يُحَاضِرُ ابْنَهُ? Does the Quran say, Luqman tells his son in a lecture? Does the Quran say, does Luqman tell his son when he's yelling at him? No. وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. One of the advices. Giving advice is different than giving a lecture. Giving advice has to be kind. It has to be gentle. It has to be strategic. If you want to convince your son, do it at a moment when they're happy. Do it at a moment when you're engaging in an activity with them. Because now their guard is down. They're not thinking of you just as a parent. They're thinking of you as someone that they can trust. Someone they can not just, someone that's also having fun with them. Because a lot of times a child looks at their parents and they said, this is a restrictive parent. This is a helicopter parent. And so in many cases, a lot of times, in a very religious household, the moment the son, the daughter leave the house, it's as if they were never raised in an Islamic environment. Why? In many cases, because it was never taught in the right way. They tried, sincerely. It was never embedded because it was never taught in the right way. And many times it was forced. Forcing never helps. It never helps. You can't force anyone. Sure, it might work for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, but the moment they turn 18, the moment they leave your house, trust me, that hijab will be taken off. In many cases. That salah is no longer prayed. And so a lot of it has to be with the way you communicate with each other, with the way we treat our children. And so one goal that we have to do, we have to have as parents, is to always be that fun parent. You have to be that fun parent. If you see your child sitting and watching TV, sit next to them and watch TV. Laugh when they laugh. Show them that emotion so they don't think that their parents, and many times, is a robot. Many children really believe that. They're like, my dad's no fun, my mom's no fun. They're very strict. And so many times the content is there, the teachings are there, it's just not delivered in the right. And so that is the second part of the 777. And then there's the last 7. And that is from the age of 15 to 21. That's where the Imam alayhi salam tells us that they should shadow you. If you have a daughter, she should shadow you, O mother. She should go out with you. If you go to a qira'ah, for example, you go to a fatihah, you go wherever you go, take your daughter with you. Let her learn, not just when it comes to, memorizing the Quran. No, let them learn through building the habit. Let them see you implement what you teach. When a son grows up in that way, he sees his dad going to the masjid every single week, every single weekend, and they're accompanied, and they're taught, and they're coming willingly. After the age of 21, guess where that son will be? He'll still be at the masjid. The same thing with the daughters. And so the Imam alayhi salam tells us, in that age, what do you do? وَأَلْزِمْهُ نَفْسَكَ سَبْعَ سِنِينَ. And let them be your companion, your shadow for the next 7 years. These are the formative years. The years where khalas, they've learned most of their things. But now they have to experiment. Now they have to live life. And so you treat them like a friend. You accompany them these years. In many communities that I've been to, brothers and sisters, they complain to me, the youth never come. They don't come to the masjid. The youth, a lot of times in many communities, believe it or not, the guys, they tell me that their guys, their youth, they don't want to marry someone who wears the hijab. And their parents are hijabs. Religious people. They pray. They leave and they don't have that mentality whatsoever. They don't want to pray. They don't want to eat halal. They don't want to. In many cases, brothers and sisters, the reason is because they think it's enough to raise my child Islamically by just taking them to the Sunday school once a week and khalas, everything will be solved. That mentality is the mentality that Islam is like history. You teach your son one thing, khalas. They understood the fact, khalas, they're going to implement it. Islam is not history, brothers. Islam is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's the way we live. It's the way we breathe. It's the way we sleep. It's the way we eat. It's the way we talk. It's the way we hold ourselves. It's the way we think. That's not just taught by one fact, by one lecture, by one speech, by one majlis. It takes years of building. It's constant. And especially in a world where there's so many other alternatives, it becomes even more difficult. And so that's the golden rule that the Imam teaches. Is that you let them be a child for a certain part. You teach them and discipline them for 7 years. And then after that, you shadow them. You make them your companion. They shadow you. In many cases, in most cases, that's the recipe to success. Now, what happens after the age of 21? What happens after the age of 21? False. They're adults. What happens when they're adults? I'd like you to bear with me for a second. When they're adults, as parents, is the job over? In many cultures, yes, the job is over. I've done what I want. I've done what I needed to do. And so when they hit 18, khalas, I'll start taking work from them too. In many cultures, that's the case. But Islam tells us there's one more responsibility for the parents. When your son, your daughter is 21, there's one more job. You have to welcome them to adulthood. And that job, brothers and sisters, is marriage. Marriage. This world, as we've been talking for a long time now, and I'm sorry to take too much of your time, this world is filled with temptations. If you're a teenager, if you're a young man, if you're a young woman in the society, there's a lot of temptations. The Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam tell us one way to defeat those temptations is by early marriage. And I'm not saying that you should compromise when it comes to marriage. Don't understand me. The whole lecture that we've been talking for 50 minutes now is not to compromise when it comes to your values, not to compromise and give up when it comes to social media. The same thing is with marriage. You should choose an ideal spouse. And so the values have to be there. The thought process has to be there. But sometimes we focus on the wrong things. And on this holy night, I urge you as parents, if someone proposes to your daughter, for example, and they're young, they're still a student, don't look at the bank account as the first thing. Leave that aside for a second. Leave the mahar discussion aside for a second. Look at the character of that man. Do your due diligence. I'm not saying immediately accept. Don't take me wrong. Your daughter is the most valuable thing that you have in this world. But do your due diligence. Ask the parents, the father, the mother, the future in-laws, the siblings. How are the family dynamics? How are they with society? How do they treat family internally? And so if they check all the boxes, don't allow finances to be the obstacle for your daughter's future. Don't allow, and the same thing for if you have a son, don't prevent your son from getting married just because he's not ready yet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not calculate things the way we do. We're thinking we want our son to have, a salary, six-figure salary, to have the best income, to own a house. These are good things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a very simple response to any of these things. إِن يَكُونُوا فُقَرَاء يُغْنِهِمُ اللَّهُ مِن فَضْلِهِ. MashaAllah, a lot of you know that. Alhamdulillah. If they are poor, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide them with their sustenance. And the question should not be is how much is in your bank account, how much can you offer? The question instead should be what is your plan in this life? Do you have a plan? Are you working towards a proper future? Are you religious? Are you praying? Are you fasting? Are you holding what your wajib is? And are you abstaining from the haram for the most part? How do you treat other people? How do you treat your sister? How do you treat your mother? These are indications of a proper man. And so if there's ever a proposal, don't reject it for the sake of they're not ready yet because they're not established enough. No. They can grow together, they can establish themselves together. صلوا على محمد وآله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. And so these are some tips for us as a community together to work towards some of the challenges that the younger generation is facing. And if we work together, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the end of the day, know whatever you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is helping you amongst the way. He's providing you for all the care that you need to continue your mission. And alhamdulillah, we have a religion that's full of role models. At every stage, there's a beautiful role model for us. And that's one of the divine miracles of Ashura. Regardless of how old you are, when it comes to the majlis of Allah, there's at least one personality that you can connect with. If you're old, I know everyone's young here, but if you're old, Habiban Allah is your person. If we've sinned in the past, if we have a dark history, Al-Hukm Yazid al-Wayahi is our person. If you're a young adult, if you're a young man, Ali al-Akbar is your person. If you're a bit older, an Abbas is there to show you what a perfect life presents. If you are a young person in the age that we've been talking about tonight, you have a lot of role models, and one of these role models, brothers and sisters, is the son of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, al-Qasim. Al-Qasim was no older than 14 years old. 13, 12, 14 years old. It is narrated that on the night of Ashura, the eve of Ashura, hours before the battle, the last night for the companions of Abi Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam, Imam al-Husayn gathers his companions. And as we mentioned, he turned off the candle. He tells them, if you want, you can go. I won't hold anything against you. Allah won't hold anything against you. And then after they stayed, brothers and sisters, Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam tells them, tomorrow, all of us will be in heaven. All of us will attain shahada. Now, lot of them were happy. Every single one of them was happy. Al-Qasim alayhi salam, in the meantime, this 12, 13-year-old boy, he stands up. He tells him, "Oh, uncle, am I included in this? Will I also end up in heaven? Will I also attain the status of martyrdom?" And so Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he wanted to see the mentality of Al-Qasim. He wanted to see what Al-Qasim was truly. And so he tells him, he asks him a very simple question. He tells him, "Bunay, وكيف الموت عندك?" He tells him, "Oh my son." He says, "Nephew." But after the death of Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein acted like the father of Al-Qasim. So he tells him, "Bunay, وكيف الموت عندك?" How do you view death, O my son? Al-Qasim very beautifully responds, "والله يا عم في نصرتك أحلى من العسل." By Allah, oh my dear uncle, if it is to support you, if it is to make you victorious, then it is sweeter than honey. And so Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam gives him the glad tidings. And Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam had 2 children on the day of Ashura. Some narrations say more, but we know it's 2 of these. 2 sons on the day of Ashura that were killed. One of them was Al-Qasim, and we'll get to it. Another one was a younger brother of Al-Qasim by the name of Abdullah. Abdullah was killed right before the death of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. The last person to die before Imam al-Hussein was Abdullah. When Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam was on the grounds of Karbala, when they're about to kill him, this 11-year-old boy rushes towards his uncle Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He hugs the Imam alayhi salam. As he hugs him, there was a person that wanted to strike the Imam. He strikes Abdullah and he kills him on his uncle's lap. He dies on the chest of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. ساعد الله قلبك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله كم من مصيبة رأيت في تلك الليلة في ذلك اليوم الصعب يا أبا عبد الله. How many tragedies did you witness on the day of Ashura? And one of these tragedies, brothers and sisters, is the tragedy of Al-Qasim. He goes to his uncle Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam after the martyrdom of Ali al-Akbar. He goes to his uncle. He tells him, "Oh uncle, please give me the honor to fight under your hands." And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam tells him, "I'm sorry, O Al-Qasim, you're the only remaining remnant of Imam al-Hassan. I can't let go of you, O my dear son." He goes back to his mother crying. He tells her, "Oh mother, my uncle Hussein is not allowing me to fight under him and receive this wonderful status of Shahada." She gives him a letter. She tells him, "Handle this letter. Give this letter to your uncle Hussein." He goes to his uncle Hussein one more time. He tells his uncle Hussein, "My mother gave me this letter to give you. Please read this letter." And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he opens the letter. He sees it's a letter written from Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam to his brother Hussein. In this letter, Imam al-Hassan is telling him on the day of Ashura, "Ya Aba Abdullah, this son of mine, allow him, give him permission to fight under your arms. Give him permission to attain martyrdom under your hands, Ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein." And one part in the letter that was written from Imam al-Hassan to his son, a different letter. Imam al-Hassan encourages his son to fight nearby his uncle. And in one line he says, "Bunay Qasim, إذا اشتدت عليك الأمور فعليك بنصرة عمك الحسين." Oh my son Qasim, if life becomes difficult, meaning the day of Karbala arrives, then I advise you to fight under Imam al-Hussein. And so Al-Qasim, this 12-year-old boy, he looks towards his uncle and he gives a strong a commandful speech. He tells him, يا عم لقد ضاق صدري وسئمت الحياة ولقد ادخرني والدي لمثل هذا اليوم قائلا لي بني قاسم إذا رأيت عمك الحسين في عرصات كربلاء وحيدا فريدا فلا تقصر في نصرته. Oh my son Qasim, oh my son Qasim, if you see your uncle Hussein alone abandoned on the day of Ashura, then give every single ounce of your energy to fight under his hands. And then Al-Qasim looks towards his uncle, he tells him, وَهَذِهِ صَرَخَاتُ الْأَطْفَالِ العطش تقطع أحشائي فهل تسمح لي بالقتال بين يديك. He tells him, oh uncle, I cannot handle the cries of the children wailing, crying for water. I cannot handle anymore. Let me be part of this army of yours and let me fight the enemies of Allah. And so Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam begins to cry. You know what the narration says, brothers and sisters? They say that Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam hugged Al-Qasim and he was not able to let go. Imagine hugging your nephew for the last time. He tells him, the narration say, أَخَذَهُ سَاعَةً وَصَارَا يَبْكِيَانِ سَاعَةً. They were crying for long times. He gives him the sword of his father, Al-Imam al-Hasan. He places the turban of Al-Imam al-Hasan on the head of Al-Qasim. He gives him the shield of Al-Imam al-Hasan. And he tells him, before you leave, oh uncle, go and say farewell to your mother, Ramla. To the mothers in the masjid, to the mothers in this majlis tonight, how dear is your son to you? I know that the most important thing to you is your child. Imagine how much you love your son. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect your children for you. May you never see any harm to your child. But Ramla, on the day of Karbala, she had to say goodbye to her son Al-Qasim. She had to say farewell to her son Al-Qasim. She hugs him. Imagine her pain, knowing that this is the last hug, this is the last time I'm seeing my son Al-Qasim. Especially Al-Qasim as a young age. She never witnessed him get married. She never witnessed him having a child. She never witnessed her grandchildren from Al-Qasim. It must have been very painful for you, O Allah. Sa'ad Allah qalbaki. Al-Qasim. It's as if before he leaves the camp of his mother, the poet, as if he describes the scene, as if Al-Qasim tells his mother, you all know the lines. What does he tell her? يُمَّ ذِكْرِينِي مِنْ تِمُرْ زَفَّتْ شَبَابٍ. All together. يُمَّ ذِكْرِينِي مِنْ تِمُرْ من العرس محروم حنتي دم المصاب شمعة شبابي من يطفوها حنتي دمي والجفن بارد all together, Yom Ha'ikri. And so he leaves the tent, he heads towards the battle. He is such a courageous young man. He begins to recite pieces of poetry. He says, إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن صدق النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير الممتهن. This is Hussein. He is stranded by you enemies of Allah. بين أناس ناسوا صوب المزن
in front of people who are even preventing him from water. And so he goes and he fights them one after the other. This young man, he begins to fight them. Hamid ibn Muslim, one of the narrators of Ashura, he says, by Allah, his face was like a glowing moon in the battle. He was so beautiful, he was so handsome, he was fighting them, and he was glowing like a moon on that day. And then one of the enemies of Allah, he approaches him. When does he approach him? Look at the cowardice. Look at how cowards these enemies of Allah were. Al-Qasim, in the middle of the battlefield, he had to fix his laces. He has to fix his shoe. He kneels to the ground. As he's fixing his lace, the enemy of Allah tells himself, he makes a promise. He says, I will make his mother weep for him today. La'anak Allah. He goes towards Al-Qasim. He rushes towards Al-Qasim when he's fixing his lace. Ya mu'mineen, ya'uzzu alayh. But I have to say the musibah. He goes towards Al-Qasim. He strikes Al-Qasim with a strike on his head. Al-Qasim falls to the ground. The first thing that he does, just like every other companion of Aba Abdullah, he calls for Aba Abdullah. And so he says, As-salamu alayka ya Amma. As-salamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. The Imam rushes to him. He hears his nephew dying. He rushes to Al-Qasim. صاحب صوت ليه أسرع يا عمي تراني تخطبت من فيض دمي. The Imam rushes to him. He sits by his side. He sees Al-Qasim. He's laid on the floor, barely able to take a breath. And he tells him, Bunay, Bunay. Look at the words of Abi Abdullah. He tells him, Bunay, Bunay, ya'uzzu ala ammika an tad'uhu fala yujibu. It saddens your uncle that you call him, but he cannot answer. يعز على عمك أن تدعوه فلا يجيبك أو يجيبك فلا يغنيك أو يجيبك فلا يعينك. Oh, he answers you, but he cannot help you. أو يعينك فلا يغني عنك شيئا. Or he helps you, he comes to you, but he can't survive. He can't allow you to survive this world. It hurts your uncle that he sees you in this case. Bunay, he tells him, Bunay, بعدا لقوم قتلوك ومن خصمهم يوم القيامة فيك جدك وأبوك. And he says their enemy on the day of judgment, those killers of yours, will be your father and your grandfather. And it's as if the poet describes this scene with Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam sitting by the side of his nephew. بجوناد يا جاسم شبيدي يا ريت السيف حزقت لك وريدي. He tells him, Oh Jasim, Oh Qasim, I wish I was the one who died instead of you. I wish I died before I witnessed this moment. Within these moments, as he is in the lap of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, the last remnant of Al-Imam al-Hassan, he departs from this world. رحم الله من نادى وقاسما رحم الله من نادى وشهيدا وعطشانا. Now, the difficult part is for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. How can the Imam take Al-Qasim back to his mother? ساعد الله قلبك يا أبا عبد الله. You know, sometimes you witness a tragedy and that's a tragedy by itself. But Imam al-Hussein, not only did he have to witness the tragedy, but he had to tell the parents, he had to tell the companions of the tragedy as well. And so the tragedy for Abi Abdullah was taking Al-Qasim to the mother, was taking Al-Qasim to Ramla. He carries Al-Qasim, he takes him towards the tent. When one of the women sees Al-Qasim in the hands of Abi Abdullah, She begins to say, Wa walada, wa qasima. Abi Abdullah al-Hussein brings him in the tent. Do you know what tent he brings him to? He brings him in the tent where Ali ibn al-Akbar is also laid on the ground. He puts them side by side. Al-Qasim this side, Ali ibn al-Akbar next to him. These youth are both now that they've departed this world. Abi Abdullah al-Hussein takes one look to Ali ibn al-Akbar, another look towards Al-Qasim. He says, Wa walada, wa Qasima, wa walada, wa Aliyah. At that moment, Sayyida Zainab comes to Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. She tells him, Ya Abu Abdullah, I know you're hurt, but the mother of Al-Qasim wants to grieve for her son, and she's too shy to come into the tent and cry in front of you. She does not want to hurt you, Ya Abu Abdullah. She does not want to hurt you through her cries. So, Ya Abu Abdullah, if you can please leave the tent, so the mother of Al-Qasim can now farewell her son. Ramla comes into the tent. She sees her son on the ground of Karbala, with no breath, with no life, filled with blood. And then as if the poet begins to say, جاب ومدد ما بين الخوته بتشاعدهم يا ويلي وهم موته بس ما سمع عن النسوان صوته اجت رملة تصيح الله أكبر. Ramla sits by her son and she begins to talk to her son. She begins to cry over her son. يا ابني يا جاسم جيت اشمك وبدمعي همش جروح جسمك. She begins to tell him, I always raised you and I was hoping for the day to see you married. I was hoping for the day to see you a father. But now, O Qasim, you've left and there's nothing left for me in this world. Life is worthless after you, O Al-Qasim. ساعد الله قلبك يا رب. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. With your broken hearts, turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your tears over Al-Qasim. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only for yourself. If you know one of the secrets to dua, brothers and sisters, if you want Allah to accept your dua, pray for others before you pray for yourselves. And so remember those in need. A lot of people are sick. A lot of people are in hospitals. Shi'at Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. They have an illness. Many of them are injured. Many of them are tired. They're at their last moments of this dunya. Remember them in your dua. Remember those who were with us last year but are not with us this year. A lot of people lose family members. Remember them in your dua. Remember your children. Remember your family members. Remember your parents. Raise your hands for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the bottom of your heart, with sincerity, raise your hands towards Allah and let us recite the verse 5 times all together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه. Let me hear you. أمن all together. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه. 2 more times. أمن يجيب. Last time with their loudest voice. أمن يجيب. اللهم اغفر لنا. اللهم ارحمنا. اللهم تب علينا. اللهم تقبل منا. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وتب علينا. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين واخذل الكفر والمنافقين. أيد وسدد حماة الدين. اللهم انصرنا على أعدائنا. اللهم رد كيد أعدائنا إلى نحورهم. اللهم دمرهم تدميرا. اللهم رد كيدهم إلى نحورهم. اللهم عذبهم عذابا أليما. اللهم انصر شيعة أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام في كل مكان. Oh Allah, accept our a'mal. Oh Allah, allow us to have a wonderful, prosperous community. Oh Allah, allow us to witness with our own eyes our children growing and becoming on the path of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, inshallah. Let us, brothers and sisters, stand up for the Imam of our time and end the majlis with the Imam of our time. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحسن صلواتك عليه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وقائدا ودليلا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى اللهم على محمد